Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Village Law SEQFC preview show. My name is Darren. I'm off my deathbed after last week. I was so sick last week. So sick. But I'm back. Yes. And we've got some guests tonight, and we're going to catch up on all the football that's been going on. Not too many games on the weekend, but enough to certainly keep things interesting. First of all, let's introduce fellow admin. His name is Scott Harding. He is from England, and boy, have we been having some fun pre-game.
Look, it's the spirit of the game, mate, as you know.
Yes, let's employ the spirit of the game in tonight.
Spirit of the game. That's right.
We've got Wayne Heath with us tonight. It's Wayne's first time on the show. Now, Wayne was the coach at North Lakes United this season. He's since been replaced by Arnie. Arnie's at the wheel, moving down from the Sunshine Coast Wanderers. G'day, Wayne.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, mate. Great to have you on board. And we've got from, are you just called the Magic Butters?
Magic United.
Magic United. There
FC.
we go. And it's Brett Budwee. G'day, Brett.
Hey, mate. Good to be back.
Yes, it's been a little while.
Been a while.
All right, guys. Where should we start? I think we're going to start with the round of 32 draw. Scott, what did you think of all the teams? Looking at the draw, there were no sort of easy ties. There were no extremely difficult ones. It was all a bit much of a muchness. What do you think?
Yeah, I happen to agree with that assessment personally.
Yeah, I mean, if ever there's a time to play the Knicks, it's in round of 32 because they won't have any.
Yeah, that's right. Get it done now.
Games behind them, so Pinch of Power get a little bit of advantage there. Lions travelling to Melbourne Knights. I guess that's probably the toughest one of them all. Yeah,
that's a rough one. I have to chat to Simon about that. That's a rough one.
And Moreton Bay United hosting Heidelberg. What do you think of that? Have you got a chance in this one, guys?
No.
Well
Not that I've seen Heidelberg or anything, but
all right, we'll leave it at that. And Gold Coast United, the Gold Coast Knights, sorry, they probably got the easiest draw hosting Devonport Strikers. What do you think when you saw that one, Butters?
obviously good for Knights, but I watched them play the other night, and their quality at the moment, they're really good. What was that, the Kappa Cup semi-final?
Yep.
That was like watching an A-League team, mate. They were so good. It was the first time I've seen them this year, and they really impressed me.
Last season, we were talking about Scott McDonald going, oh, I'm not sure what we're going to get, but he's shown he's up to the job, isn't he?
Yeah, he runs a tight ship from everything I've heard, and the boys are really fit and all the rest of it, so credit to him.
Nice to see he's managed to find the time on social media to have a go at Football Cavalucci as well. But that was entertaining, It was a fine thing. But yeah, perhaps better not to engage on social media like that. But he's a good coach.
Definitely.
Yes, we're not sure if you've seen that Twitter spat or not out there, folks, but it was a few weeks ago, so we'll let that one slide. Wayne, did you keep an eye? Have you been keeping an eye on the NPL ladder? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have actually. I've hopefully got some time now to actually watch a few of the games live instead of just online. There's a few good games coming up, especially this weekend with Moreton Bay and United Gold Coast. I think they're playing. Is that this weekend? Did I get my games right? You might be able to help me there.
I don't know anymore.
Well, that's good. But yeah, look, it's a bit of a change. A few of the teams up at the top of the table from what's been there in the past. So it's always good to see a bit of variety around the games. And I'm looking forward to, as I said, getting to a few of these venues and watching them in person.
Yeah, great to see Gold Coast United and Moreton Bay mixing things up and certainly making their presence felt. Speaking of making their presence felt, Rochedale Rovers are now in 6th.
Yes.
Yeah. New signing of Jimmy Fairgreaves as well.
And Jordan Holmes, I believe.
Jordan Holmes as well. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Scott McNichol, you're on my wish list for future weeks, mate. We're going to get you on the show for a bit of a chat.
He'd be a very entertaining guest, I think.
Oh, yeah. I've had plenty of interviews with him in the past. So, yeah, he's always a good chat. One thing that was interesting from the weekend, Olympic. They made the final of the Kappa Pro Series despite being in the relegation zone.
Well, yeah, I really don't know what to say about their season, to be honest. It's very, very hard to pick how consistency is working in that club at the moment. What's your view on it, Darren?
Oh, look, the change of coach, they didn't really get that bounce, but I don't know. You just look through their squad. It's not the squad of years past, and maybe with this window, I think I saw they brought a couple in, didn't they? So maybe they can change their fortunes. But they've got to win. They've got to get at least 7 points between now and the end to just catch up to the Sunny Coast Wanderers. And Redlands United are another 2 points above. So they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to survive.
Yeah, it's a shame. It is a shame. I mean, they're too good a club to be in that position, I think.
All right, let's have a look at the FQPL 1 ladder. Service Paradise Apollo on top by a point over Logan Lightning. Butters. The SPA on top.
Yeah, they got a strong squad, mate. Yeah, well coached by Alex, and they just seem to be able. They get someone like, I think Adam Powell got out injured a couple of weeks ago, and they bring in Josh DeMarco from the Royal, wherever he was from. I think because they're one of the top teams and they've been so successful, it's easy for them to draw players at the moment. So, whereas other teams might struggle with an injury or someone like the quality of Adam Powell being out there, they've just picked up, in the transfer window because they're attractive to players to come to, and they get well looked after, I suppose.
Logan Lightning just 1 point behind now. They're certainly making their charge as well. So things are brewing along quite nicely in the FQPL 1. Scott, do you think anyone other than SPA and Logan will go up?
I don't think so. I think those two squads are very, very strong. I think those two are going to lock it down. I don't see too many sort of blips in the road for either of those two clubs, to be honest.
Where's Ace coming in that? They were in that race for a while, weren't they?
Yeah, they're in fifth place on 21 points. So they'd have to be perfect from here on in to have any chance.
Yeah.
So can't really see it happening for them. A little bit of action down the bottom there. Southside Eagles and Mitchelton holding up the bottom of the ladder with Thunder and Sunshine Coast, the other two clubs that can be caught.
Is it the top two that goes up in that league, Darren?
It is, yes.
And do you think the national second division, if that comes in, that might have an effect on the promotion and relegation?
I'd imagine it would have to, wouldn't it? I mean, I can't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah. So if we lose two clubs out of the NPL, well then, do the bottom two clubs still get relegated, or they get a pass?
I think that's a bridge that we'll cross when we get to it.
Yeah. In fairness to FQ, I guess they have to wait and find out where the land lies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then make it sort of an informed decision from there. So in their defence, until they know what the next round of that's going to be and how it's going to look, I guess they can't say. But that's a logical solution, isn't it? Is that no one goes down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, the question would also be, would they not maintain a team in this league as well? Would they just do that national second division and that's it? Or would they be maintaining a team in this competition as well?
From what I read, that they can't do that. So you can't have an NPL team and a team in the second division.
Fair enough.
Well, I guess if you look at the likes of Brisbane United, which is that amalgam team, if they get through, hypothetically, would Wynnum and Virginia and the others be their second team?
Yeah, probably.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question, because if Brisbane United are successful with their pitch to go through, they are setting a bit of a precedent there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you following me?
We're doing.
Yeah.
All right, Wayne and Butters, I'm going to set you two loose now. Let's get some FQPL2 and chat happening. Butters, you're coach of Magic. You're in 6th place at the moment. Wayne, your old team, North Lakes United, 13 points in 9th place. And go!
It's good. It's a strong competition, really. I think Broadbeach and St George will probably run away with top 2 positions and automatic qualifications up. But the rest of the sort of sides are pretty even. Magic are obviously got some really good players come through now. Apart from really the bottom sort of couple of teams. I think North Lakes were sort of in there at the time, but there is some good games there. It's pretty even sort of competition.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. As someone who's watched the league for the QPL2 for the last 2 years, because my son was at Magic prior to me joining, I've been surprised how strong the league is actually this year. All the teams that have at least 3 or 4 players that could probably play in a higher league, which I think's brought up the standard. Even Maroochydore, they've got a winger there that killed us both games. I think he could probably play in an NPL team, you know what I mean? So I do think the league's got a lot stronger this year. It's teams can take points off each other no matter what weekend it is, apart from Broadbeach, who are undefeated. But, we gave them a good run when we played them. But, yeah, they're a good team.
Are you surprised at how well Broadbeach have done?
Not really, because they were dominant last year in the Gold Coast League. The players they got could easily, the whole team could play in a higher league, which they will end up doing. And I think they've got some good sponsors and people behind the scenes and that as well. But no, they've done really well. I'm sort of happy for them.
And how about your team, Butters? Are you happy with where you're placed at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think we've won 4 in a row now, and we've only moved up 1 position in that time. So the teams around us have been winning, but we've gone from 10 points out of the top 4 to 1 point, I think now. It's a bit of a hard gig when you go to a new club sort of thing, because you inherit players that were already there. Sometimes you inherit the backroom staff and that as well. When I went to Magic, I didn't really inherit the backroom staff, which we've had to put together over time. Some players have gone. We've got, some quality players back in the last few weeks, Robbie Smith and Danny Morton, which has helped us. But no, we're on a good roll at the moment. There's good confidence within the group, so it's enjoyable to be around.
And Wayne, you were, of course, promoted into this competition. What did you think of it?
Yeah, look, obviously we had a really successful year last year, and this year it was basically a new club. So the combining of the 2 North Lakes teams, we came up with a lot of confidence, but obviously there was just a lot of issues in the background that sort of crept in with being a new club and a few players moving on, and we brought players in. We just stepping up leagues it's a very tough challenge, because you do sort of look at it above. In the year before, we sort of took note of this competition, and we sort of felt like we'd be very comfortable in it. But when you actually get there and you notice that week in, week out, that standard's a lot higher. It does make a big step up, and I think that was a little bit of a shock to a few of the players. Again, from the North Lake side, they've got good players there. We've got a lot of young players. There is a lot of young players there that the new coach will have fun dealing with. There was a few long-term injuries, which really didn't help the cause, but a lot of good signs for the club, moving forward. Unfortunately, I won't be a part of it, but I do wish them success moving forward, and hopefully they stay in the league. They got the win on the weekend with the new coach, and hopefully they can keep that momentum. And as I said, stay in the league would be a big success.
Take me through the letting go of yourself with not so much the circumstances, but how you take it all emotionally. I mean, you obviously put all your planning into the season, and then to have it halfway through just end like that. How do you deal with that emotionally?
I you just deal with it. It's a bit hard to sort of say what stage you sort of go through. You do put a lot of commitment in. Personally, I try to, work quite closely with the players themselves, and it's luckily my assistant coach is staying on at this stage, so he's staying as part of the new, coaching staff. So yeah, look, from me, I could see it coming, so it wasn't really a sort of a sudden departure. I saw the writing on the wall. We knew we had to change it. We knew there just had to be a way to get a new message to the players and just somehow get a result. That's unfortunately sometimes the gig with senior coaching. All the plans you put in place, if they don't come through, if you don't get the results, then yeah, you moved out the door. So,
does your phone fill up with messages?
No, I switched it off for quite a while. So you got lucky. You got me on a good day. So
I did. What about you?
I can tell you from the other side, if it helps, that being an ex-president, it's actually hard to let people go as well. I've had to do it twice with senior coaches, and it wasn't a decision I came to lightly. I'll be honest with you. It's one of those things that I waited to the end of the season in both cases, but you look at it and go, it's still a very difficult conversation to have. And I think, it's very hard to balance that tension between club admin and coaches. Do you know what I mean? But I do think you've got to give someone the time to bed in and go through a project. I'm not saying that I can't comment on your circumstances in this situation, but I think that's the best way for any club to look at it, isn't it? Doesn't matter whether it's at the top level or further down. You've got to give people time to bed in. I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, and you're the one that did the hiring in the first place, aren't you? So by letting someone go, effectively, you're admitting that you
Absolutely. But it's got to work for both sides. It's got to work for the coach as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, from that point of view, I think it's interesting. It's quite a delicate balance,
What about you, Brett? Have you ever been in that situation?
I've never left the club mid-season. I've been sacked at the end of a year. It is even as a player, you know that you're going to leave a club or whatever at some stage, and for me, it's how that separation is handled. If it's not handled the right way, it can turn into a bad memory sort of thing. So, whenever I've left or been sacked or whatever, I've always tried to keep that bridge there. It's just football coaching, especially at a senior level, is a lot of emotion. So you invest a lot of emotion into the job and into the games on a Saturday and all the rest of it. So, when there is a separation, I think it has to be treated, warily or the right way, just so it doesn't blow up, unless there's been a fallout behind the scenes, obviously. But if it's just a change of, we want to go in a different direction and all that, I think it's a very delicate and very important part of the whole process is how you separate,
Yeah, the way it's handled is absolutely key. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just coming back to you on that, Scott, I mean, I've heard some absolute horror stories about how some coaches have been let go in the past. And it's basically been because the committee haven't had the tools, the gumption, or just the guts to do it properly.
I think it's really important. Like, whenever we were in that situation, we always have one. We had quite a few people on our board, and you'd have one person, one vote. And I just had one vote. That's all I had. But I was always the person who gave the news. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important that you do it face to face and you do it personally and you do it calmly, because I think that's a respect thing. You know what I mean? I think it's a really important thing for coaches. Even if it hasn't worked out for both sides, there's still a respect there. There's a level of respect there that needs to be seen through. You know what I mean? Because you don't want people to leave on as Brett's alluded to, you don't want people to leave on bad terms, and you don't want that to impact both sides. I think that's really, really important. So it's a tough conversation, but it's one you have to have.
Unfortunately, a lot of the time it isn't done face to face.
Yeah, I heard.
And sometimes it's a shock to you when it happens, but in hindsight, you can sit down if it's face to face and you can nut it out, and it might be the right decision for both parties. But if it's not done face to face, well, then it's
I agree.
It's really hard to take.
Yeah, extremely.
Just getting back to the FQPL too, Butters and Wayne, can you see Souths or Maroochydore surviving in this league?
Well, down the bottom of the table, there's only really a point or two between Souths and I think North Lakes. I'd say Taringa and above are probably safe, apart from a complete sort of horror ending to the year. Look, it's going to be tough for Maroochydore. It's going to be quite tough for them to get out. But South probably, yeah, I can see them surprising.
Can you see Ipswich Knights dropping in there?
Yeah, Ipswich Knights. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think North Lakes is probably a touch better than Souths at the moment because we played them recently in the last few games. Souths, if you get them on that artificial pitch, it takes you 45 minutes to get used to the speed and the bounce of the ball. So you know they could possibly get some results, I think, over there. And Maroochydore, for me, we beat them a few weeks ago, and I said to the coach, I can't believe you guys have only won one game all year because they took it to the wire. You know, they got some quality players, but I think they've just been unlucky. But you know, on their day, I think they could beat Souths and North Lakes.
Mm.
Interesting that we find that the Gold Coast leagues, when they've stepped up into these FQPL competitions, they've done quite well, Brett. Sunshine Coast haven't had that experience yet. Still probably finding a little bit tough. I'm sure depth would be an issue for them as well.
Yeah, traditionally, when the Gold Coast teams play the Sunshine Coast teams, like in the Australia Cup or something, we normally would come out on top. To be honest, I think maybe only the top two teams in the local league down here now would be able to compete in the FQPL2 weekly. It is a big step from what I've found out.
We will go to that league very shortly. Just want to touch on the NPL women's leagues. Lions, of course, are on top in the NPL women. Eastern Suburbs still just 4 points behind. Peninsula Power in third. Gold Coast United in fourth. Mitchelton just outside in fifth place. Lions beat Mitchelton on the weekend to secure their place in the cup competition. I believe they're taking on, it escapes me, I can't remember who they're playing. Brisbane City in the top in the FQPL 1, Southwest Queensland Thunder in second place. I love seeing Southwest Queensland Thunder doing well in competitions. Western Pride are a team at the bottom of that league. Now that Liam's not here, we can say that they're in a spot of bother and may be going down to FQPL 2. Where Wayne, North Lakes United, last season they blew it up and started again. But with Anthony Costa at the helm there, things seem to be taking root. Top of the league of the FQPL 2.
Yeah, he's done a really good job coming in and bringing in a whole new system for the ladies there. The club's given him a lot of backing, so they've been very successful, and yeah, it's been great for the club.
Was there much of a crossover between the two sides during the season?
Not a lot at the start. Well, we were sort of separated. I suppose a lot of the same with a lot of other clubs having to train at alternate pitches for pre-season and the like. But we did try and have a few little things together with the men and women, and yeah. But not as much as probably we could, and hopefully they do in the years to come.
Wayne, there was a little bit of a slide in your voice through then. I hope that comes through with the recording because it was fantastic. All right, let's look at the FQPL 3 Metro men. Bayside United on top, 9 points on top. We're going to get Lee on the show in a couple of weeks. I say that about a lot of coaches, don't I? Pine Hills in fourth place. Leo's overseas. Leo, come back, mate. Get this team promoted. North Brisbane, Western Spirit are the two teams in the relegation places. Sanford Rangers on 39 points in the Metro 3 women, with Toowong in second place. Let's move on. Ipswich Knights, great to see them back on top of the ladder. top of the FQPL4 with Springfield United just behind. Scott, anything to mention about this competition?
Yeah, so Brisbane Knights, I mean, look, they dropped points for the first time against Moggle the other day. So they lost their first game, so which is interesting. Springfield scraped home a new, very, very tight one against New Farm, I think 1-0 over at New Farm Park, which was a big game for them, obviously. And they're keeping the pressure on, which is nice. So hopefully we can keep going and take that second spot in that particular division. But yeah, I did predict to you that New Farm would find it difficult to hold that second spot. And it's going to be very, very hard for anyone to, because I think Karina's there as well. You've got 3 or 4 clubs jostling there for that second spot. It's going to change hands a few times, I think.
Certainly do. All right. Great to see New Farm United having a good season as well.
Yes, they're doing well.
FQPL 5, you're on the Eagles. They're on top, 1 point over Barden Latrobe. Of course, had Russell Mapri on the show last week. FQPL 6, Braza on top over Logan Village. Let's quickly gloss over the Sunny Coast competitions. Mumbai on top over Caloundra. You don't see that happening very often. Noosa Lions in 3rd place. Budwee in 4th. There are 5 points between 1st and 6th. So this is a ding-dong league. In the women's, Mumbai are on top as well over BGs and Maroochydore. Both BGs and Maroochydore are 1 point behind. Butters, let's get to the South Coast leagues. Now, you mentioned before you thought that only 2 clubs in this league had the strength to possibly compete up in the next level. But we've got Southport on top. Is that a surprise to you at all?
Yeah, considering how well Robina were going at the start of the year, it is. Considering the players that Robina's got as well. I know they were making a big push to get the promotion, so I'm not sure. I think it's just the top team goes into a playoff or something, if I'm right.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, the top 4 teams could probably play in the FQPL2, but I only think the top 2 teams would compete week to week, you know what I mean, be able to be consistent sort of thing. Robina have a few of my players that I had at Palm Beach last year who wanted to play locally sort of thing. So, you know, if they got promoted, whether those players would then follow them into a QPL2 is another story. But yeah, look, for me, the league isn't as strong as it's been over the last few years. But the crowds are still there. I went and watched Robina and Palm Beach a few weeks ago, and the crowd was really good. You know, it was a good atmosphere. I think that's the only problem I find with going up to the FQPL2 now, or into that league myself. There's no away fans. Like if we're playing Taringa at 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, there's no Magic supporters that are going to follow, you know what I mean? Yet I went to watch the Palm Beach and Robina at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. It was packed. But yeah, no, it's you know, the top of it is still some decent quality. I just think down the bottom it's dropped a little bit. Not as competitive all around.
And Kingscliff in third place. Ross Phoenix is maintaining a pretty good level there, isn't he?
Yeah, I went and watched them on the weekend against the Knights because I only live down the road. That wasn't a bad game. There was a few injuries. But yeah, a bit of a seesaw battle, that one.
And Palm Beach in 4th place, your old club. You think they're did they lose many players when you left? Was there a big turnover? Yeah,
there was quite a big turnover. They've done well. They've the reserve grade team at Palm Beach for the last 2 years when I was there was really, really strong. So those boys have got experience, and a few of them have stepped up into the first grade, which is good to see. And Craig got a couple of players in the latest window or whatever. They seem to have. They got Byron Skinner from Holland Park went over there. So they've strengthened, and they're a really good team this year. So I picked them to be in the 4.
So while we've got you here, you think Southport can hold on, or will Robina run over the top of them?
Is it still a 5-point gap?
It is.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit too much for them to. I don't see that many teams that can take points off Southport. And I'm pretty sure Robina's already played them twice this year. So Yeah, I think it might stay the way it is.
There you go. All right. And in the FQPL 3 South Coast Women, it's the Gary French show. Gold Coast Knights,
Right.
undefeated, 11 games, 11 wins. Musgrave, 12 points behind in second place.
I'd say privately, I'm quite nervous about that league because we're in a really sort of like quite a difficult battle with Toowong for that second spot in QPL 3 Women. And Sanford plays Springfield next weekend. So if we don't get up there and potentially we get second, we run into Gary French. So in the playoff, which is that's not what you want to see.
They're gun. They could be in a much higher league, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know how that ends.
How many goals have they scored, Darren? That's
a good question.
9.
The goal difference is 81.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't want second in the QPL 3 winning this year. Third to be better.
The team coming second is Musgrave. Their goal difference is 11. From third to seventh, they all have a negative goal difference.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Crazy.
Yeah. There you go. The FQPL 4 South Coast men, Broadbeach United on top. Ormo moving into second place. Well done, Nathan Mulhern. Palm Beach in third. Butters, anything to talk about this league?
We've got a team in that. Magic's got a team in it. They've been hit by injuries and people on holidays and that, so haven't trained too much lately. So they're struggling for numbers. But now I've watched a few games. Pimpama are a decent team. I think Nathan's team's really good. Aren't they called Carlton now or something? But no, they've got some South American guys there that could probably play in a higher level. So Nathan's done well to get them there. But yeah, it's not a bad league. It's a bit of a fun league. The crowds are always getting into it. There's lots of banter in those games.
Brett is, of course, referring to the Ormo badge, which looks very similar to the Carlton badge.
Yeah.
In bottom place. What's going on there? I mean, they were legends. They were at the top of the league last season at some point.
Yeah, we played them in the Australia Cup. That was our first round of the Australia Cup game, and yeah, I could have played against them. You know,
yeah,
they're all, you know, it's like they're good footballers. They're people that have played football probably at a higher level before, but they just don't have the fitness and that of the young guys. Like, so they get caught out.
Yeah. All right, just quickly looking at the Darling Downs League. In the men's competition, Willowburn had a win on the weekend, which puts them equal top with Rockville. St Albans slipped back into third place, 2 points difference between the top three there. And in the Women's League, Highfields Gold still clinging to that top spot over Willowburn, who have a game in hand and are 3 points behind. Good things happening there on the Darling Downs. That's a run through the leagues, guys. Brett, who have you got this weekend?
We play Sanford at home.
Right.
I think they're 1 point above us, or they're on the same points as us, so it's a massive game.
And have you got the squad fit enough to get over the line?
Yeah, well, we didn't get a training session in last night because it was flooding down here. But no, the boys have all been doing some fitness, you know, by themselves and that. And I've got a full strength squad, so looking forward to it, mate.
Tell us a little bit about the Magic Club. So there's a relationship there with Gold Coast Knights, isn't there?
I think it's not what it used to be. There's no, like, we don't have the Knights badge or anything on any of our clothing anymore, which they used to have. But the Magic, you know, Magic Group, it's a business. They run the carnivals. That all the guys just got back from running a carnival down in Melbourne, the Diamond League. So, you know, there's a lot of full-time staff at Magic, coaches and that. So it's a business as well as a football club. It's obviously something I've not encountered before. I'm used to working with volunteers sort of thing in my role, but now I'm working with people who that's their full-time job, so it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I've got good support from Adam and all the rest of them behind the scenes, and no, it's really well-run business, mate.
And does that mean that there's a production line of players that you've got at your disposal?
Not necessarily. The juniors we play in the FQPL2 league. But there's a lot of competition for the juniors down here when you've got Gold Coast Knights and Gold Coast United playing in the NPL level. So, the best younger ones sort of gravitate towards that higher level. And we're sort of like a third choice. But no, we've got our under 23s are going really well this year, and our under 18s are a good squad, got some good young players in there. So no, from a head coach's point of view, the future looks bright.
And give them a plug. When a player takes on the Magic or joins, it's private sessions, isn't it?
What do you mean by that?
So if I've got a child that I think is going to do quite well and I go to Magic, I can get private sessions with them. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you could definitely get private sessions, but none of the teams from obviously first grade down to under sixes, they're all coached by professional coaches. There's no dads. There's no, we're not, when we put a under 8s team together, we're not grabbing one of the dads and saying, listen, we're going to put you through a coaching course and, clue you up and all the rest of it. When they come in as an under 8 or 9, they're coached by blokes who that's their full-time job.
And is there a philosophy at the club?
Look, mate, the philosophy is about development, player development, getting kids ready to, be professional footballers if they want to be. The club provides traineeships for kids coming out of school and that. So we've got a lot of the under 16s that come and do coaching the under 6s and helping out in the school camps and stuff like that. So, no, it's very well structured. Good
stuff. All right. Wayne, now that you've got your weekends back, where are you going? Which games are you gravitating towards a particular competition?
Well, as I sort of said, I'll probably try and watch a few of the NPL games. At least watch a bit of quality sort of football. I think Moreton Bay might be at home this weekend, so that'll be my first choice on Saturday night. And then sort of play it by ear and see who else is playing around. Probably local. Wouldn't mind heading back to Brisbane City at some stage to get a good pizza and a meal and watch a good game there. Yeah, we'll see where the good games are. It will be my next sort of spots.
And are you available to fill a gap if there's a club that wants to let their manager go?
Not at this stage.
Never say never. Never say never.
That's right.
So actually, Wayne and Brett, I'll ask you both about this. I mean, obviously, Wayne, you were at North Pine, and did you apply to get the North Lakes job, or were you, did they say, hey, we want you?
So I originally was there. Then I actually continued. I was still playing at that stage. So I had a year off coaching and decided I'll have another year of playing. And I went across with North Lakes. I can't tell you what division it was, but what we were back then. The structures have all changed again. But yeah, we had a good year there. They sort of offered me the role at the time once the coach had departed, but I turned it down and went over to Peninsula Power with the 20s and 23s. But then, yeah, sort of I did speak to them. They didn't offer me, but they said there's going to be an application coming up for the following year. So I just went through that stage. Yeah, did the application and went through that process.
Scott, tell me about the process of hiring a coach.
Oh, look, what we used to do is we put an advert out, actually. And then what would happen is we'd drop a shortlist and I'd interview everybody with a preliminary interview. And then we narrow it down to 2 after I gave the feedback to the exec. And then we bring people back in for a second interview. And then it was game on at that point, generally. So
what are you looking for in a CV?
Breadth, the ability to sustain a project, enthusiasm, the ability to connect, all those things. Very often when I was interviewing people, I'd be looking at soft skills as well. Because if you can interview well in those situations, particularly when you're getting thrown scenarios and you can cope with them in real time, generally that's a pretty good sign.
Okay. Brett, you interviewed for the Magic job, right?
No, not really. I suppose I've been lucky. I've been doing this for 17 seasons now, and I've never actually applied for a job. It's normally just I've been tapped up or a phone call, or the 2 times I've been sacked, I've got a phone call within a day asking me if I want a job, sort of thing. So I've been lucky in that respect. I actually, I got asked to apply for the Palm Beach job in 2010, and I'd already sort of committed to Nerang, but I thought I'd go through the process, and I got to the last, like Scott was saying, the last 2 people, whatever, and I went into a meeting, and it was like I was getting interrogated by the Gestapo. And so
Yeah.
halfway through the meeting, I stopped it and said, "Listen, guys, I'm going to pull out. I'm not ready for this job yet." I said, "I've only been coaching for 3 years. I need more experience before I take on a big job like Palm Beach." So I went away for 5 years, and then I come back 5 years later when I was ready and took the job.
I think that's the thing. You get a sense when you're interviewing coaches about how ready they are, and I don't really think you necessarily have to go to the panel. I think you can just have a coffee, and you can talk and you can see. But by the time I've sat down with a lot of coaches, I've done a lot of due diligence on them before I even do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've talked to people around the game or who know them, or do you know what I mean? I've talked to past players. I've talked to people who work with them. You find out what makes them tick before you sit down with them, which is important.
Wayne, do you have a coaching resume?
Oh, I do. I do have a bit of a resume in place, and yeah. But at this stage, as I said, it's been put on the back burner for now. So we'll see what happens later. Right.
Is it 1 page? Is it 2 pages? Is it 3 pages?
The world needs to know, Wayne. Come on.
It's a complete folder.
Ah,
Photos and match programs and everything.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm finding this fascinating, the lengths that coaches have to go through now just to get a gig.
Oh yeah, you've got to have your CV all sorted out and ready.
I don't know. I don't know if all presidents are like I was, but it wasn't just about the CV for me. You need to get a sense of the person. I think that's a really important thing too, because you have to put yourself in a position that you're a player. You know what I mean? And you're seeing the person who's not the CV. So it's one of those situations where you've still got to interview and try and find them as a relaxed frame of mind as you can. You know what I mean? I think that's really important.
Yeah, I would expect that the chemistry between yourself and the coach, given that you're going to be spending a hell of a lot of time together,
Absolutely.
that's got to be the most important ingredient, right?
I mean, I can just stress too, and people who know me well enough know the answer here. I was quite hands off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I generally leave coaches to their own devices once they were set and they had a project and they're up and running. And I was just there for support. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what other presidents are like in terms of the way that they manage coaches and head coaches, but generally you come in and you just check in and see if people are okay as the season goes on, and you review halfway through and you review at the end. That's what you do. That's the way we ran. I can't speak for other clubs, but that's ideally the way it should run.
Yeah, it's not always like that, Scott. I can
No,
tell you
I don't know.
I can tell you a few stories.
I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could. Yeah.
All right, guys, we might leave it there. I will close the show just to let you know that tomorrow our World Cup tipping competition will be up and running. So all you need to do is tip the winners of each of the games in the World Cup. Win. One team will win, or a draw. You get 1 point for a correct result. The winner at the end wins. Well, we've got 4 prizes up for grabs. We've got $300 worth of KPI gear to the winner, $200 worth of KPI gear to second place, and $100 worth of KPI gear to the third. And we've got to do a random draw. All you've got to do is sign up, be in the competition, and show that you at least give a damn. And we'll do a random draw at the end. So you could come second last in the competition and still win $100 worth of KPI gear. So should be great. Sign up. That will commence tomorrow. Look out for it. All right. This is the show. This has been the Village Law SEQFC preview show. Thank you to my guests tonight. Wayne, I'm sure they'll be a new job coming for you very shortly now that you've been on the show, mate. It's how it works here.
The phone will be ringing off the hook.
Ring it up the hook, exactly. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We will see you. Is the State of Origin next week?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. All right.